looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Not so fast.
That at least Philly sports fans are having a good week, are having a good month, are having a good day. And the Flyers are off to a surprisingly great start. I'm not sure anyone really expected that, as even their coach, who, you know, they a newly hired coach, came into this year and said, you know, we're not going to win many games. Don't expect much from us, basically. And, you know, they got off to a 3-0 start. I know that they are I think they're 3-2 now. You know, they got off to a great start. It's not something that, you know, I don't think at least they're going to really keep this up. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, it is still something to be surprised about and be happy about if you're a Philly sports fan. And, you know, the Flyers are definitely a team that is off to a good start. The Phillies, we will get to that in a minute. As I'm just checking up the Flyers record here, is they're 4-2, mind you. So yeah, 4-2, great start for the Flyers as well. The Eagles are the only undefeated team in the NFL, and they have some very winnable games coming up on their schedule. Starting off with the Steelers this week at Sunday at 1 p.m. And then they got the Texans next week on Thursday Night Football. So they're 6-0. They've got 2 winnable games coming up. And then you have the Phillies. How about the Phillies? Did anybody expect the Phillies to do what they've done this postseason? I don't think so. They fired their manager, Joe Girardi, mid-season. They were hanging on to a playoff spot in a tight playoff race. And, you know, the Brewers, who just missed the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, were right there in the race. No doubt about it. They win the wild card series over St. Louis, and then you look at the upcoming series after that and say, wow, it's a tough task to take down the San Diego Padres. And there was some ups, right, in that series, but there were also some downs in that series too, and it was definitely tough from game to game. You know, one game you thought they were gonna win it all and they were gonna sweep the Padres, and then the next game you thought the next game you thought it was the beginning of the end. And I will say this about the Phillies: they showed a whole lot of courage and a whole lot of resilience in that San Diego series, because there were plenty of games. I mean, I know it was only a 5-game series. They only played 5 games, and they won 4-1. But there was plenty of games where they fell behind, and it was not looking good. I mean, let's go to Game 5, for starters. They were down 4-0 before they even had a chance to swing the bat yet. They gave up 4 runs in the top of the first inning in Game 5, and all of a sudden it was looking like, okay, the Padres are right back in this thing, and the Padres have a shot at sneaking back into this series and making things interesting. But the Phillies were having none of that. They go on and have an offensive explosion. Their bullpen, kind of, covered their butt a little bit as the starter was not very good. And I was a little surprised to see him in the rotation for the World Series. But, yeah, not very good starting pitching in Game 5. There was another game. I'm not sure which game it was. I don't think it was really the starting pitching. I think it was the bullpen that just wasn't very good. Again, this was just so many ups and downs in that series that at the end of the day, you look at a 4-1 series win, and you're thinking, all right, not bad, we'll take it. And Houston, though, is a whole nother animal. Houston is, definitely by far the toughest team they will have played in the postseason. Because, you know, and let's not forget, I mean, they also had played the American League East pennant winner, Atlanta Braves, too. And, you know, that was an interesting series as well. And, again, you know, after you beat St. Louis, you take down your rival Atlanta. And then I was saying, you know, you look up at San Diego and say, okay, this is a tough task after they had just taken down, you know, the best team in the National League, LA Dodgers. Again, tough matchup for them in the World Series. But honestly, what more could you have expected? Did you really think you were going to be able to look at the World Series matchup and say, oh, easy money? No, absolutely not. There's no way. I mean, the World Series it's the two best teams in baseball. And okay, maybe the LA Dodgers in the regular season were the better team, but they didn't beat the Padres, and the Phillies went out and earned all those wins. Again, I would have to go back and look at each individual game again, but I don't think there was any one game that was except for maybe the one where Hoskins and Harper hit those home runs in that explosion of an inning. But I don't think there was really any one game where it was handed to the Phillies, where it was a runaway game and an easy win. So there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, okay, yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. That's kind of the whole point. And I will say this. The pitching is without, and everybody knows this. All the Phillies fans have heard this over and over again, and it is a tired thing to hear about. It is a tired story that I'm sure that Phillies fans have had their fair share of hearing this headline, storyline, theme, whatever you want to call it. But the pitching is an issue. And again, all the Phillies fans know that, and they're probably tired of hearing that. But it is something that, looking at a World Series matchup, when you are talking about winning a championship ring, if you have a glaring issue like that, it is something that you can't really ignore. And looking at the Astros, I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm 99% sure they did not lose. They have not lost a game in the postseason yet. And, I mean, that is a team that I am pretty, I wouldn't say scared of, but I wouldn't feel confident in my ability to go out and absolutely shut them down, if you catch my drift. And, again, with I mean, and you know, you want to talk about pitching, fine, let's look at pitching. As you know, the Astros pitching is I would say arguably better than the Phillies, no doubt about that, but it's not, you know, it's not like you have the best rotation in the world going up against, you know, an average or mediocre or bad or terrible you know, rotation, because that's not the case. It's not. You know, I think when you compare the two, yeah, sure, okay, the Astros rotation is better. I don't think there's too much argument there. But if the Phillies, I think their starting pitching is fine. I will say that their starting pitching is not really the issue unless they have a game like they did from, I think it was Falter, right? But, you know, the bullpen, yeah, Bailey Falter. The bullpen, I think, is where I am a little hesitant, and I think I pretty much share that same concern with Phillies fans as well. As again, I mean, you put Zach Wheeler out there, he's had a really good postseason. Nola has been really good as well. I mean, the starting pitching has gotten the job done. No doubt about that. The bullpen, other than that one really bad game from Bailey Falter. So, and again, that was his only start so far in the postseason, and I was surprised to not see, because I don't believe Syndergaard started in the Padres series. I could be wrong about that. I don't believe it. He did. I was surprised to not see him start in Game 5. I guess they're saving him for Game 6 in case they lost. But anyway, they win, so it's, that point's neither here nor there. The bullpen, though, I mean, you got, Alvarado, sure. Dominguez is serviceable. But I think the concern that I have, at least, is, sure, they've been able to hold up when you have a pretty decent-sized lead like they have in these games, right? They win 6-3 over St. Louis in Game 1 of the wild card. All right, 3-run lead. Yeah, you can blow that a little bit, but that's a decent-sized lead. 2-0. All right, I'll give them credit on that. The bullpen holds a 2-run lead. That's good. 7-6. I'll give them that. That's fine. A 1-run lead. Way to go, right? To be able to hold that against the Atlanta Braves. All right, I'll give it to you. Game 3 of that series, you win 9-1. The bullpen, you could have thrown your worst bullpen pitcher out there, and I think you probably still would have survived that game. You win 8-3 in Game 4, and that's another game where, okay, you win 8-3. You win by 5 runs. It's not exactly a tough, tight situation where you need your absolute best pitching. A 2-0 win over San Diego in Game 1, tight game. I'll give them that. Another one, I'll give you credit where credit's due. You win Game 3, 4-2. All right. Once again, I will give you that. Game 4, you win 10-6, 4-run lead. There's some leeway there, and then the last one you win 4-3, I guess it was. I thought there was a way. Oh no. Okay, this was Game 5. I was thinking of the game on Saturday. Okay, so this was Sunday's game. I was thinking of Game 4 on Saturday, where it was, you gave up the 4 runs on top of the first inning. That was the 10-6 win. This 4-3 game, once again, though, you look at this score and, you were up 2-1, and top of the 7th inning, you gave up 2 runs to give them a 3-2 lead, and that is a concern, because if you are unable to hold that in that scenario, and that was Dominguez pitching in that 7th inning with the blown save. Luckily, the offense was able to hold up their end of the bargain and get the job done, but that's the concern at the end of the day. When you're taking on Houston, a team that has been electrifying, that's a concern, because the offense, and again, going back to the Phillies real quick, the offense is, I wouldn't say that's a huge problem. They've been able to, time and time again in the postseason, come back from a deficit, whether it was 4 runs or 2 runs or 1 run or whatever it was. They've been able to come back from deficits. So that is not a major concern for me. I think it might be a little bit, as if they're playing better pitching, which they are, and they're certainly playing some better pitchers in Houston than they did against San Diego. But I think Houston, the main worry for me is if pitching has been I would say a decent concern for Philly fans, how do you feel about going up against that electric Houston Astros offense that has pretty much, you could say the same thing about Houston that I did about Philly, where they can come back from a deficit, right? I mean, they win close games when they need to. Their pitching shuts them down, right? They win they won 1, 2, 3. They won 4. They won 4 one-run games so far this postseason. Are you confident in your ability to go out and still come back from a deficit when the Astros have been able to do that? When they've been on over half of their wins, right? Because they played 7. Over half their wins were one-run games, and they've been able to hold it down. Are you still feeling so confident about that offense? I mean, I think yes and no. The Yankees offense struggled a lot, and the Mariners offense had their ups and downs. They didn't, they had one game where they scored over 5 runs, and then after that they got shut down relatively. And let's not kid ourselves. The Mariners are not exactly on the same, playing field as the Phillies right now in terms of offense. you know, you look at again, the Astros can score when they need to, right? They gave up 7 runs to the Mariners. Okay, they went and scored 8. But they also don't need to. If their pitching can shut a team down, as they did in a 1-0 win over the Mariners and a 5-0 win over the Yankees, all right, they just score a couple of runs and then they're good to go. With Verlander and McCullers as the two pitchers, I think I would be a little more, again, I don't want to say scared, but I would be less confident, going up against those pitchers is my point. And, I mean, again, it doesn't take an expert to say, oh, it's going to be tough to win this series for either team. I'm not handing the Astros this World Series ring, but I think that this is by far the toughest test for the Phillies, and I don't think that doesn't come as much of a surprise to anyone.